You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, we're going to talk about the Denver Broncos. Now, in case you have not been noticing, what Sean Payton is doing in Denver is working. That culture, that Super Bowl winning culture. And we got to remember, it's not just the Saints. Sean Payton's a guy that came right directly off that Bill Parcells coaching, historic coaching staff that also, of course, birthed out Bill Belichick. That getting mad. Think about that a second. I mean, Belichick, Payton, Parcells. I mean, guys, I'm 48 years old, and I can remember what those giant staffs look like, you know, for the New York Giants and for Parcells and for all those guys involved in that coaching tree. And Parcells doesn't get enough credit for one thing and one thing only. We always talk about, generally speaking, you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback when you talk about Super Bowl rings. Well, Jeff Hostetler, Phil Simms, no. Well, Parcells was that badass. Now, look, he had Lawrence Taylor, and he had a hell of a lot of good players. But, man, can you imagine if he'd have had a Dan Marino? Shit, Parcells might have won 6 or 7 rings for all we know. I don't know. That's a side note to all this, but you get the point. Before the season, there was a massive controversy involving Sean Payton. And, of course, he made a comment about just how big of a train wreck the Denver Broncos really were and how the organization was embarrassed, and in large part because of, lack of a better way of putting it, shitty coaching from Nathaniel Hackett, who's now, of course, the OC with the New York Jets, another team we cover a lot. And it got a lot of controversy. Sean Payton got dragged, and Sean Payton looks right. He looks right now. Let's be honest. The Jets are a train wreck on the offensive side of the ball. Zach Wilson did not develop into anything much more than what he was, although I do think he was better at times this year. And I'm sorry, but Zach Wilson probably should still be starting because at the end of the day, he is better than Tim Boyle, but, I mean, what are you going to do? It's like we got to see what else we got because it's just been that bad at certain times. But we know Russell Wilson had a putrid season, and even Sean Payton had his doubts. He brought in Jarrett Stidham with the idea that I may have to pull Russell and put Jarrett Stidham in. What has Russell Wilson went out there and done? Resurrect his career. 20 TDs, 4 picks. I don't care who you are, how you chop it up. When you look at Russell's stats this year, they're light years better than they were last year. And, frankly, it's his best stats in about 3 seasons. One could argue like 4 seasons. Back in that nitty-gritty, some of that Seahawks Russell Wilson action. Well, let's take a look at this. Florio wrote a good article about the fact that at the end of the day, Sean Payton was right about the Broncos and the Jets. And the Jets, in the offseason, Payton talked about how these teams, they do all these things, they end up on Hard Knocks, they're talking all this shit, and you could tell, I'm going to come in here, it's going to be professional, it's going to be businesslike, and we're going to win games. Now, look, all you got to do is look at this schedule. Now, tomorrow, I mean, I know you see Broncos and you see Texans. You better have that circled. That is an AFC playoff game right now. Basically. They're the last 2 teams out right now. The last 2 teams out. Whoever wins that will hold the tiebreaker and will set themselves up to get into the AFC playoffs. You look at the rest of this Broncos schedule, let's be real. Outside of the Lions in Detroit, and even that I think could be construed as iffy, they can win this Chargers game, this Patriots game, this Raiders game, this other Chargers game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guys, there is a world where the Denver Broncos win out from here on out. And I think at the very least, there is a world where they win 4 out of the last 6 games and are 10-7 and very likely in the AFC playoffs. First year, Sean Payton. And I understand Aaron Rodgers got hurt, but neither here nor there. The Broncos look incredibly stable as an organization, and there are rumors of Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh getting fired right now in New York. Right now. In late July, Broncos coach Sean Payton became a pincushion for widespread criticism. I said I liked his comments. He probably shouldn't have made them, but I thought they were very honest. We asked for honesty from these guys. Give us full-on honesty. Don't give us so bullshit. Don't give us some concocted media crap that sounds like a bunch of cliches. And then when they get brutally honest, the mainstream media tried to drag Payton over this. He was talking to Jarrett Bell of USA Today, who Payton happens to be friends with. Payton was dragged for his stunning candor with shots fired at the Broncos for their mishandling of Russell Wilson in 2022, at former Broncos coach Nathaniel Hackett for the poor job he did with the team, and at the Jets for the over-the-top hype they were receiving at the time. Payton drew further ridicule after the season began and the Broncos stunk, since Payton also said the 2023 Broncos, quote, "I'm going to be pissed off if this is not a playoff team." At the very least, they're going to be really close. They're going to be really close. They're either going to make it or they're going to be just out of it. In hindsight, Payton was right about everything he said. Of the 2022 Broncos, he said, quote, "It doesn't happen often where an NFL team or organization gets embarrassed, and that happened here. Part of it was their own fault. Relative to spending so much time trying to win the offseason, the PR, the pomp and circumstance, marching people around, and all this stuff. You remember Sean Payton walked in the door. First thing he did was Russell Wilson and his coaching entourage. Bloop, you're out of the building. Goodbye. Oh, you got a special office, blah, blah. No, not in my culture, not with my team. You are the quarterback. You are a part of this team like everybody else. And he was going to coach him hard, but Sean Payton was going to do what good coaches do, look at Russell Wilson's strengths, put in a game plan that fits his strengths. He even said it when he was on the herd. I'm going to run Russell's greatest hits. Smart. I mean, it's worked. Of the 2023 Jets, he said, quote, "You watch. Hard knocks, all of it. I can see it coming. Remember when Dan Snyder put that dream team together? I was with the Giants. I was a young coach, and I thought, how are we going to compete with them? Dion's there now. That team won 8 games or whatever. So listen, just put the work in." On Russell's struggles during his first year with the Broncos, Payton said, quote, "There's so much dirt around here. There's 20 dirty hands for what was allowed, tolerated in frickin' training rooms, the meeting rooms, the offense. I don't know Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. This is BS that he's hit a wall. Shoot, they couldn't get a play in. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball. That's undisciplined." I mean, On Hackett, Payton said this, quote, "Might have been the worst coaching job in the history of the NFL. That's how bad it was." It goes on to talk about, should Payton have said those things, or did he even think he was off the record? Probably not, but Payton was right. The proof is in the standings. The Broncos have won 5 in a row after a 1-5 start. They are serious playoff contenders. The Jets went from preseason darlings to an afterthought. And even though it appeared for a while they might be a way to win enough games until Aaron Rodgers returns from torn Achilles tendon, the offense has totally and completely failed. And the offense is ultimately managed by the person Payton accused of registering, quote, one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. Goes on to talk about again, Payton shouldn't have said what he said. But Florio's right. I mean, there's no other way to cut it. Now, Joe Douglas with the Jets has got a hand in the Jets' failures because, again, and you guys have heard me say it just in the last week, but they should have had a legitimate backup quarterback in there, a guy that had been at very least, some kind of journeyman starter. The night that Aaron Rodgers got hurt, he should have been on the phone. Flacco, Wentz, somebody that resembled a professional NFL quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick off the street. I don't give a damn. But one of those kind of guys. Or like Mike White, who they had and let go. You know, here we are. We talked about the Broncos. You know, I've covered a lot of Raiders lately. We covered the Broncos just like we're covering the Raiders right now. There hasn't been as much Bronco coverage because guess what? The Broncos has settled in, and for lack of a better way of putting it, especially defensively, and they're flashing around on offense. They're kicking ass and taking names right now. And guess what? Those teams don't get as much videos made about them because they're stable all of a sudden. Sean Payton was right. All that shrapnel, all that fallout, the media on the ground, kicking, screaming like this, he shouldn't have thrown Nathaniel Hackett under the bus. Tell him when you're telling lies. I mean, where's he wrong? I don't see it. I think he's come in there. He's put in a culture. It took about 6 games to get it in. I don't know. You can just throw the Dolphins game, woke everybody up, woke up Vance Joseph, who was getting ready to be fired. They sat down, and great coaches find a way to be able to change the narrative in season. That's what makes a great coach. Guess who did not evolve? And we're not even talking about the Patriots again, but where were the adjustments with the Patriots and Bill Belichick this season? It took forever for Douglas to start really getting active in the offense. You continued to do Juju and Devontae instead of elevating younger receivers. You didn't move Mike Owenu over to right tackle until what? Like the 9th game? 8th game? Should have happened the 3rd week of the season. As soon as that dude was healthy enough, boom, move him. It was too late by then. You got to be able to make adjustments, and Payton pivoted quick after that 70 points. Yeah, it's good coaching. Great coaching. Tell me what you think. Is that out of bounds? I mean, is Hackett all world? Is he moonwalking out there? Or the Jets? Is it all Aaron Rodgers? It just because Aaron Rodgers is gone, that's the blame. Okay, we'll see. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.